learned from books or movies. She was always praying for me, too, trying her hardest to save my soul. I never had the heart to tell her that I thought organized religion was a total crock. It was a pleasant fantasy that gave her hope and let her keep going, which was exactly what the hunt was for me. To quote the almanac, people who live in glass houses should shut the fuck up. When I reached the bottom level, I jumped off the scaffolding and dropped the few remaining feet to the ground, my rubber boots crunching into the slush and frozen mud. It was still pretty dark down here, so I took out my flashlight and headed east, weaving my way through the dark maze, doing my best to remain unseen while being careful to avoid tripping over a shopping cart, engine block, or one of the other pieces of junk littering the narrow alleys between the stacks. I rarely saw anyone out at this time of morning. The commuter shuttles ran only a few times a day, so the residents lucky enough to have a job would already be waiting at the bus stop by the highway. Most of them worked as day laborers in the giant factory farms that surrounded the city. After walking about a half a mile, I reached a giant mound of old cars and trucks, piled haphazardly along the stack's eastern perimeter. Decades ago, the cranes had cleaned the park of as many abandoned vehicles as possible to make room for even more stacks, and they'd eventually dump them in huge piles like this one all around the settlement's perimeter. Many of them were nearly as tall as the stacks themselves. I walked to the edge of the pile, and after a quick glance around to make sure I wasn't being watched or followed, I turned sideways to squeeze through a gap between two crushed cars. From there, I ducked, clambered, and sidestepped my way farther and farther into the ramshackle mountain of twisted metal until I reached a small open space in the rear of a buried cargo van. Only the rear third of the van was visible. The rest was concealed by the other vehicles stacked on and around it. Two overturned pickup trucks lay across the van's roof at descending angles, but most of their weight was supported by the cars stacked on either side, creating a kind of protective arch that had prevented the van from being crushed by the mountain of vehicles piled above it. I pulled out a chain I kept around my neck and on which there hung a single key. In a stroke of my luck, this key had still been hanging from the van's ignition when I first discovered it. Many of these vehicles had been in working condition when they were abandoned. Their owners had simply no longer been able to afford fuel for them. So they just parked them and walked away. I pocketed my flashlight and unlocked the van's rear right door. It opened about 1.5 feet, giving me just enough room to squeeze inside. I pulled the door closed behind me and then locked again. The van's rear doors had no windows, so I was hunched over in total darkness for a second until my fingers found the old power strip I duct taped to the ceiling. I flipped it on, and an old desk lamp flooded the tiny space with light. The crumpled green roof of a compact car covered the crushed opening where the windshield had been, but the damage to the van's front end didn't extend beyond the cab. The rest of the exterior remained intact. Someone had removed all the van's seats, probably to use as their furniture, leaving a small room about 4 feet wide and 4 feet high and 9 feet long. This was my hideout. I'd discovered it 4 years earlier while searching for discarded computer parts. When I first opened the door, gazed into the van's darkened interior, I knew right away that I'd found something of immeasurable value: privacy. This was a place no one else knew about, where I wouldn't have to worry about getting hassled or slapped around by my aunt or whatever loser she was currently dating. I could keep my things here without worry. They wouldn't be stolen, and most important, it was a place I could access the oasis in peace. The van was my refuge, my bat cave, my fortress of solitude. It was where I attended school, did my homework, read books, watched movies, and played video games. It was also where I conducted my ongoing quest to find Halliday's Easter egg. I'd cover the walls, floor, and ceiling with styrofoam egg cartons and pieces of carpet in an effort to soundproof the van as much as possible. Several cardboard boxes of busted laptops and computer parts sat in the corner next to the rack of old car batteries and modified exercise bike I'd rigged up as a recharger. The only furniture was a folding lawn chair. I dropped my backpack, shrugged off my coat, and hopped on the Xgo each day. I pedaled until the meter said the batteries had full charge, then sat down in my chair and switched on the small electric heater I kept beside it. I pulled off my gloves, rubbed my hands in front of the filaments, and they began to glow bright orange. I couldn't leave the heater on for very long or it would drain the batteries. I opened the rat-proof metal box where I kept my food cache and took out some bottled water and a packet of powdered milk. I mixed these two together in a bowl, then dumped a generous serving of Fruit Rock cereal. Once I wolfed it down, I retrieved an old plastic Star Trek lunchbox I kept hidden under the van's crushed dashboard. Inside were my school-issued Oasis console, haptic gloves, and visor. These items were by far the most valuable things I owned. Far too valuable to carry around with me. Oh, I don't know how I did that. Oh, no, okay, here we go. I pulled on my electric haptic gloves and fixed my finger to make sure none of the joints were sticking. Then I grabbed my Oasis console, the flat black rectangle about the size of a paperback book. It had a wireless network antenna built into it, but the reception inside the van was for shit, since it was buried under a huge mound of dense metal. So I rigged up an external antenna mounted it on top of the hood of a car at the top of the junk pile. The antenna cable snaked up through a hole I'd punched in the van's ceiling. I plugged it into the port on the side of the console, then slipped on my visor. It fit snugly around my eyes like a pair of swimmer's goggles, blocking out all external light. Small earbuds extended from the visor's temples and automatically plugged themselves into my ears. The visor also housed two built-in stereo voice microphones to pick up everything I said. I powered on the console and initiated the long login sequence. I saw a brief flash of red as the visor scanned my retinas. Then I cleared my throat and said my login passphrase, being careful to enunciate. You have been recruited by the Star League to defend the frontier against Xur and the Kodan Armada. That is awesome. That's his login. My passphrase was also verified along with my voice pattern. And then I was logged in. The following text appeared, superimposed in the center of my virtual display. Identity verification successful. Welcome to the Oasis. Parzival. Login complete. 7:53:21 OST 2:10:2045. As the text faded away, it was replaced by a short message just 3 words long. This message has been embedded into the login sequence by James Halliday himself. when he'd first programmed the Oasis as an homage to the simulation's direct ancestors, the coin operation video games of his youth. These 3 words were always the last thing the Oasis user saw before leaving the real world and entering the virtual world. Ready Player One. Alright guys, so that goes up to the first few chapters and readings of the book. It is 11:28. I went well past the hour. I apologize for anyone who was expecting it to only be an hour long. But I didn't want to end on a chapter, or not want to end on the middle of the chapter. So next Sunday we will pick up from there, and we will keep going. If you are interested, please follow. It is at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every Sunday, unless an emergency pops up on my end. And we will read for about an hour to an hour and a half like we did today until the next chapter is finished. And I really hope you like it. I'm going to highlight this video, the full thing. So if you're just coming in or you missed part of it, you can go back to my highlight videos and check it out there. Or you can go to YouTube. It'll be up on YouTube as well, where you can find it under Yoroshi. My YouTube channel is titled Yoroshi. That's my username. I'll have that linked up on my page here today. I'll fix that. But thank you very much for joining with me. I'm actually very, very pleased with the amount of people who are in here right now for the reading. It was a lot of fun doing it with you guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. And like I said before, if you haven't yet and you want to hit that follow button, please do. The whole concept here is to have everyone have fun. If not, that's cool too. I'm not going to force anybody to do things. I just really hope you're enjoying yourself. And Sunday mornings are really all about embracing the gaming culture. So remember, guys, if you are interested, it is a game called Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, right there. And please get the book. You can read along with me next week. We'll be going from, actually, we'll just be going from chapter 2. Thank you again. I'm going to take a break. I've got some stuff to do, and then I'll be on later. But again, guys, thank you a lot. Have a wonderful day. And for anyone just joining, I'm sorry that you just missed out on the reading. But like I said, you can check it out on the highlight thing. Mikey Porter, thank you very much, man, for hitting that follow button. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone else enjoyed it as well. Have a wonderful day. There'll probably definitely be some Minecrafting going on for my regulars. And stuff like that. So, guys, have a wonderful one. Sleep says goodbye as well.
Bye.
And we'll be back later. Enjoy, guys.